Now I want to go over my favorite position group of the Philadelphia Eagles, and that is the defensive line. Okay, I've been a huge fan of this defensive line and what we've had on it. We've taken hits. We've taken a lot of injuries in the past. Since 2017, it has been nuts, and 2019 was the worst year for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this is all if we're 100% healthy and we're rocking it and we're getting into the season and nothing bad is happening to us. That's what we have to kind of take into account, take with a grain of salt, because everything looks good on paper, and then when the season starts, everything falls apart very fast. So I want to get straight to this defensive line and why I think that this defensive line could be the best in 2020 this year. You look at Derek Barnett, that had a pretty good rookie season, 14th overall pick. A lot of people were very 50-50 on it. Came in, had some sacks, had a pretty good year, had a fumble recovery in the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship game, got a strip on Case Keenum. And you know what? Had a pretty good year. Then ever since 2017, it's been lingering injury. Has really been trying to get 100%. His numbers haven't been great. Now, if he was like a second-round pick, his numbers would be fine. But since he's like an early first-round pick, he's not living up to that first-round break of what he should do and what he's capable of doing. So I'm hoping that Derek Barnett comes in here and does something this year. His numbers need to get up, obviously. I know it's all about the pressure and everything like that, but Derek Barnett just needs to get his numbers up. He needs to show us what he could do. The Eagles picked up his fifth-year option. Obviously, they want to see if there's a market for him. When a team picks up an option, it pretty much means they want to see a market and see where they're going with it and maybe an extension. But I think part of the reason is because Brandon Graham is pretty much, he's going to be gone the next, 2 years after this year and next year. He's pretty much gone on his contract. His contract is up, and the Eagles don't want to lose two edge rushers pretty much in the next couple years. So they're going to keep Derek Barnett, obviously. Hopefully they do, and hopefully he does get better. So Derek Barnett has got a lot on his shoulders, but he could, at 100%, he's a very good player, but he needs to do something and really produce for us, because I think we're getting a little impatient with him right now. Now you look at Josh Sweat, a fourth-round pick from Florida State. Not a good first couple years. I think, he had to be, he's never going to be a starter, never going to be a superstar, but seeing him last year, never falling on his face when he was rushing. His motor wasn't that great. He was running out of gas all the time. But I seen him at a rotation. He did pretty damn good. Looks like his pass rush was a lot better. Against the run, a lot better. So I think, he's nothing fantastic, but this guy can lay the boom, and this guy could tackle, and this guy could find the quarterback if, throughout a game when Jim Schwartz is switching this defense every 5 plays and he gets his shot. They had him in pretty much preseason all of last year. They kept him in the preseason game for pretty much 3 quarters because they just want to just let him have it. And I'm a big fan of Josh Sweat. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's going to be anything special, but rotational guy. I think he's going to be getting in that backfield, do some good things. So Josh Sweat's a pretty good player, and I wish him well for 2020. Now, Brandon Graham. Now, I was really surprised when Brandon Graham got his extension. I thought he was gone, but you saw like DeMarcus Lawrence and Jadeveon Clowney, all these guys got franchise tagged. A lot of these guys got franchise tagged, and thank God we re-signed him. And to be honest with you, Brandon Graham had a pretty good year last year. Had a good amount of sacks. His pressures were off the charts. QB hits were off the charts. Always gets to the quarterback all the time. And if he keeps working like that in the last 2 years of his contract, obviously, he's doing a really good job. So you lose Brandon Graham for the season if that does happen. Don't want to say that, but you lose him for the season, you're going to take a big hit at that defensive end position. But Brandon Graham is nasty, and I've always been a big fan. Obviously, when we drafted him, he didn't really get good until pretty much getting into his prime. He really kind of, a high pick and really didn't produce too much until later in his career. So I have to say Brandon Graham has been working his tail off and very happy to be in Philadelphia. Now we go to the defensive tackles, which is going to be my favorite. Fletcher Cox. Obviously, when we see him have a down year, it's a down year. When he loses a player next to him like he has in the past, obviously other things do happen where he gets double teamed. He can't do anything. He gets paid a lot of money. He's probably one of the only players that hasn't taken a pay cut, hasn't taken a restructure at all. Probably one of the only players that hasn't took one, and I would think that maybe the Eagles would be doing that. I think, Cox is going to be 30 years old. He's getting up there in age, obviously. So always like Fletcher Cox and what he could do, the pressure, but when he has somebody next to him that's high profile, that can get pressure, Fletcher Cox is even more nasty and just a monster in that middle. And most offensive lines can't do a damn thing. So Fletcher Cox is going to be something special. So while he is getting old, there could be somebody for the future to take his place, and that is Jayvon Hargrave, okay? They call him the grave digger, okay? He became a free agent from the Pittsburgh Steelers, an underrated, probably the first. He was a nose tackle in Pittsburgh, but highly underrated, okay? And a lot of Steelers fans, and I've seen a lot of Steelers fans get really upset about Jayvon Hargrave. His pressure's fantastic, gets in the face of a center, of a guard. I mean, even when he was a nose tackle, he was nasty. The Eagles make him the 6th highest paid defensive tackle in the league. Just amazing. And him next to Fletcher Cox is going to be unstoppable. I think that's where it's going to be. I know Timmy Jernigan was there at one point, and after he had that back injury after the Super Bowl, he had that spinal surgery and was never really the same after that. But Jayvon Hargrave, the grave digger, is going to come in here next to Fletcher Cox. Fletcher can't wait to be working with him, obviously, but the middle is got a lot of depth, and Jayvon Hargrave as a starter with next to Fletcher Cox, lined up right next to him, it's going to be something. Who are you going to double team? What are you going to do? It is going to be something special, so can't wait for that. Now you have Malik Jackson. This is a guy with playoff experience, Super Bowl experience. Malik Jackson has really not even got hurt in his career, so he only made it to be in an Eagles jersey for one game in 2019. And I think it was a torn ACL or whatnot, and he was out for the whole entire year. We lose Malik Jackson. And it took a hit to the middle of the defensive tackle position when we got Malik Jackson. He was choosing between Green Bay and Philly to go in free agency, and Malik Jackson wanted to come to Philadelphia because he wanted to play next to Fletcher Cox. And, prior to that, with the Jacksonville Jaguars, he was benched after a few games because he wasn't playing well or something like that. And Malik Jackson kind of ignored it, but he has a chip on his shoulder. He can't wait to play teams this year. Malik Jackson, quote unquote, said offensive lines are going to have problems with this defensive line this year. I want Malik Jackson to stay healthy. Now, I don't think Malik Jackson's going to be here throughout his whole contract. I think it was like a 3-year, $30 million deal. I think he's going to be here this year, and then the Eagles are going to try to trade him or get rid of him to get cap space back, of course. And then Jayvon Hargrave is pretty much going to take that spot, and Jayvon Hargrave could be the next young defensive tackle for the next few more years to come in here and take over. When Fletcher Cox retires or whatnot, I think Jayvon Hargrave is that guy. But Malik Jackson, he's going to be pretty much a one-year rental this year, and he's going to prove himself what he could do. I hope he does show up and does some good things, but it's off the charts what he could do. It's off. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league till this day. Just had an off year with injury. So with no injury, a very productive player. Now, early in free agency, we signed Hassan Ridgeway. Okay, we traded for Hassan Ridgeway in the draft last year. I think with the Colts, I think it was like a 6th-round pick involved. I forgot what it was, the whole entire trade. But Howie Roseman was very high on Hassan Ridgeway. He was only 24 at the time. I think he's 25 now, something like that. But Hassan Ridgeway has been on the roster for the past couple years. Got re-signed this year to a 1-year deal and has shown very good flashes last year. I think he had 2-3 sacks, something like that, but he was very disruptive in the backfield. I forgot what his injury was. I think it was a foot injury or a calf injury or something like that. I think it was lower body of some type. But very excited to see what Hassan Ridgeway could do. I think our defensive tackle position is very good in depth. I think the depth is fantastic. I think the Eagles are still adding another defensive end, but not go off topic with that. But Hassan Ridgeway, I think the Eagles are just giving him another chance. Here's another prove-it year for you, to come in and be disruptive. And I've seen him get in the backfield. He's got a big club. I mean, he gets back there, he makes a tackle. He's not the fastest guy in the world either, but he can get pressure. You get pressure with this defense, you win football games. Doesn't matter if you don't have 10 sacks for the year, okay? Doesn't matter if you don't have 10 sacks. You get pressure, you're doing your job. You get pressure, you are doing your job, and that's all that matters, okay? So this defensive line as a whole, I think the Eagles are going to add another defensive end, whether it's Vinny Curry or it's another guy. They had $23 million in cap space. They got the cap space left to sign something like $10 million a year if someone wants to get paid and come here. But other than really adding another guy to the edge, I think this defensive line is set. Plus with the secondary behind it, Roby Coleman, Darius Slay, and whoever is going to start opposite of Darius Slay, I think it's going to be literally unfair. I think it's going to be unfair. Got a lot of young linebackers coming in right now. Obviously, everyone's like, "Oh, it's a weakness. It's horrible." Yeah, I obviously know that. But right now, it's more competition. Who's going to? I think there's more product players. There's more role players coming to this defense that can play well, like a Camo Grugier-Hill, like guys like that can come in and start playing really well and do some good things. So I don't want you guys to be pissed off or angry because of certain positions, but this defensive line makes a whole difference. It puts the icing on the cake, and when there's pressure, there's trouble. And when there's trouble, you're going to look for corners to get some easy picks. And God, we've dropped so many in the past few years. So I think this Eagles defensive line is the strength point of this whole team coming together. And without injury, this defensive line could be the best number one defensive line in the NFL. And I'm saying it right now and here first. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And I will see you guys later. Shake Squad up. Fly will sly.